Hello everyone. Today is December 21st, 2022. The topic for discussion is the rise and fall of the New York City Correction Department. Now, I would like to approach this discussion from a historical perspective and compare statistics current and past. Now, in the late 80s and the early 90s, the inmate violence in the department was very high. The population was approximately 19,000 incarcerated. Although the inmate violence was very, very high, the assaults on correction officers were not. And the assaults on correction officers with feces and urine and liquids were very low at the time. Now, in 1994, Eric Taylor became chief of department, and the violence at that time was very high. Within a few years, in 1998, Eric Taylor was able to reduce the inmate violence by approximately 75%, which was a dramatic decrease in the violence. Let's jump to 2003. We had Martin Horn, Mark Cranston, Robert Davrin, and Carolyn Thomas. Now, that team was headed the department from 2003 to 2009. In those 6 years, there were approximately 226 slashings for 6 years, a total of 226 slashings. That averaged about 37 per year under that leadership, with an inmate population of approximately 14,000. Now, in 2013, there was an inmate population of about 12,000, and Evelyn Maribel was the chief at that time. 2013, under Evelyn Maribel, was the last year that there was any stability in this department. It was also the last year where the agency was a premier agency nationwide, looked to by many other agencies for advice. And I don't have the exact number of slashings for that year, but let's say, I think a reasonable guess is 50. 50 slashings for the entire year. Very, very low compared to the current number. Now, the fall of the department began in 2014 with the election of Bill de Blasio as mayor. In 2014, there was a head-on collision between progressive policies and reality. In 2015, we had the Nunez consent decree, the Nunez consent judgment. Also around 2014, we started to see a lot more anti-law enforcement rhetoric, a lot more of an anti-law enforcement agenda. There was a feckless leadership at the top echelon of the civilian leadership. And the violence from 2014 to 2022, inmate violence increased every year. Now, let's discuss 2021 and 2022 statistically. In 2021, there were 419 slashings. Now, compare that to less than 50 per year prior to 2014. 419 slashings and stabbings in 2021 and less than 50 prior to 2014. In 2021, there were over 11,000 inmate fights. Prior to 2014, there were around 6,000 or 7,000 inmate fights. Now, I want to emphasize, 2021 had 5,000 inmate population, and prior to 2014, there were, let's say, 12 to 14,000 between 2003 and 2013. In 2021, 7,500 uses of force with 5,000 inmates. Prior to 2014, years had less than 2,000, and there were years with less than 3,000. And you're talking again with an inmate population of 12, 14,000. So you had less than half the inmate population, but sometimes more than 3 times the amount of use of force. In 2021, you had 145 inmate arrests for criminal behavior. In 2008, 751 inmate arrests. In 2009, 567 inmate arrests. In 2013, 798 inmate arrests. Also, in 2021, you had 20% of the inmate population affiliated with gangs, jail gangs. And between 2003 and 2013, approximately 10% of the inmate population was affiliated with gangs. Now, why do you think that's the case? Well, survival. Jails are inherently dangerous. However, prior to 2014, there was violence, of course, and there were slashings and stabbings and fights. But we were able to do a reasonable job in protecting inmates from inmate-on-inmate violence. Now, I would like to think that it should be much, much lower. But again, jails are inherently dangerous. So that's one reason why inmates join gangs, to survive. And the gangs offer protection. So if the department can't protect you, then an inmate may consider joining a gang just to survive. Now let's go to 2022. The current administration, they've been there for a full year now. In 2022, I don't have all the numbers, but I venture to say there will be more than 500 slashings and stabbings this year, 2022 alone. This is the most inmate violence that we have had in 25 years. 500 plus slashings and stabbings. And once again, prior to 2014, less than 50 per year. Now keep in mind, the department gauges inmate violence by slashings and stabbings. So when I say that this year we had 500 slashings and stabbings, that's not counting inmates that are beat up by other inmates with fists, stomped, with broomsticks, or with mop ringers. None of those incidents are included in that statistic. This is solely slashings and stabbings, over 500 this year. Inmate fights this year, well, I don't have the number. Last year there was over 11,000. I suspect it's at least that, if not more. Assaults on staff. Between 2021 and 2022, each year, there's probably a couple of thousand assaults on correction officers. And the numbers of assaults with feces, urine, blood, seminal fluid, liquids, those numbers have skyrocketed because, as I mentioned, in 1994, those things were very, very rare. It was a shock if you heard that somebody was assaulted with urine or feces or water. Now, it's commonplace. You probably have over 1,000 of those incidents alone every year, if not more. So the assaults on correction officers are probably a couple of thousand each year in 2021 and 2022. Uses of force. In 2022, I don't have the number, but I would venture to say it may be close to 10,000 this year. 2021, 7,500. Prior to 2014, there were years that were 2,000, 3,000. Still, less than a third of what it might be this year. with more than double the inmate population. And the gang affiliation this year, probably about 20%, double what it was prior to 2014, as I mentioned, because inmates need to be protected. Now, these numbers are from the Mayor's Management Report. And you can go online and Google it, and you could just input the year that you want to see, and the statistics will come up for that year and other years. I just had a little trouble getting some more recent statistics. So where are we now? In 2022, we have the administration that is still going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole and still coming up with illogical policies, not using common sense to try to solve the problems. In addition, this administration, as you know, has civilianized the uniform chief rank and replaced the uniform chiefs with deputy commissioners. They are planning to civilianize the warden rank in the very near future, and they will replace the uniform wardens with civilian wardens. Further, they are potentially planning to civilianize deputy wardens, assistant deputy wardens, and captains. As I mentioned in my last show, when I read for you excerpts of the letter from the federal monitor, Steve Martin, to the United States District Judge, where that was discussed. 2022 has been the worst year for inmate-on-inmate violence and I suspect assaults on correction officers that we've had in 25 years. In addition, this civilianization is leading to dismantling the correction unions, because that's what will happen if they start civilianizing everybody. They will bust these unions. So I asked this administration, is that how you want to be remembered? Is that how you want history to remember you? Because that is your legacy.